my name is Sarah, and today we're going to be talking about the science behind bicycles. So, how many of you guys can actually ride a bicycle? Very cool, very cool. I think when I was in the States, I learned how to ride a bicycle when I was about, I want to say 6, 7 years old. That's usually kind of around the time that people in the US learn how to ride a bike. I noticed though that I happen to know a lot of Korean friends here in Korea who they never learned how to ride a bike for whatever reason. I guess since it's a little bit more crowded than other areas of the world, perhaps it's not as convenient to ride a bicycle. But anyway, if there are any of you guys who are bicycle heads out there, this article will be very interesting for you. And even for those of you who don't use a bicycle on a regular basis, maybe it'll change your mind. Alright, should we get started? First paragraph. In modern society, we use dozens of mechanical and digital devices simply to go about our daily lives. Before we even arrive at school or work and officially begin our day, many will interact with an alarm clock, a cell phone, a refrigerator, a door lock, an elevator, a pair of headphones, and an electronic chip reader. And that's all before we get on the bus or subway, which is a miracle of engineering in its own right. However, a more efficient and elegant way to get around has existed for more than a century before any of these devices. It's called the bicycle. So yeah, just kind of building up, getting some people excited. So first of all, I want to look at this word dozens. So this is an expression that we use a lot in English, and that I don't think many other languages use. But dozens, it just means a lot, you know, 몇 개. You can kind of think of it like that. So a dozen, it literally means 12. I'm not sure why people choose to measure things in units of 12 and not units of 10. That seems a little bit easier in my opinion, but this expression, dozens of blank, is used all the time in English, so make sure that you can keep your eye out for it. And it doesn't literally have to be 12, 24, 36, etc. It really just means 몇 개, and you can kind of remember it like that. The second word that I want to look at is to go about our daily lives. So this word to go about, it just means to kind of exist, to, you know, do your own thing. So to go about your daily life is simply to live your daily life. You can also use this expression to go about your business, which is, you know, just seeing to your business, doing the things that you have to do, etc. Or you can even go about your schoolwork, etc. This is also a relatively commonly used English expression, but I don't think there is an exact Korean equivalent. So yeah, just, it's not a super difficult word, but, you know, one that comes out quite a lot in English literature and just speech, so yeah, another thing to keep your eye on. The third expression that we're going to look at is a miracle of blank. So this is a set phrase that is used quite often in English, and when you use this expression, a miracle of blank, it's simply referring to something that is so spectacular or wonderful in a specific field. In this case, it's engineering, that, yeah, you can almost call it like a miracle. Of course, you know, engineering, it's not actually a miracle, it's not magic. People use different scientific methods and, you know, processes to create things like the bus or the subway system. But when you think about it, all the moving little parts that have to work together, all the people that had to build the train tracks and, you know, design the buses and make a map saying where all of the buses and trains were going to go, it kind of does seem like a miracle almost. And it's a miracle that we get to take advantage of every single day. So this sentence actually contains two set phrases, one of which I forgot to underline. So the first one, like I said, is a miracle of blank. In this case, it's a miracle of engineering. And we're referring to the bus and the subway system here in Seoul. But it's followed by this other expression, which is a miracle of engineering in its own right. So in its own right, you're saying that, so all of these things right here, we're talking about all of the different devices that we use to go about or live our daily lives. It's an alarm clock, our cell phone, a refrigerator, an elevator, etc., etc., etc. And, you know, just 100 years ago, all of these things would have seemed absolutely crazy. It's stuff that our ancestors could never have even imagined. And it's certainly never anything that they saw, perhaps throughout their lifetime. So these little things, they're all kind of miracles that we get to take advantage of every day. And so when we talk about the bus or the subway system being a miracle in its own right, you're saying even just without all this other stuff, it's still really, really spectacular on its own. So perhaps we have two women, they're sisters, and they're both celebrities, they're both actresses, but one is a little bit more famous than the other. So we can say that the second sister, who, although she's also a celebrity in her own right, because of her own special qualities that, make her into a really good actress or, someone that people are interested in. So even though this person is a celebrity in her own right, she is used to living in the shadow of her sister, or she's used to other people paying more attention to her sister, even though actually she is also a celebrity too. So in this case, we're comparing cell phones, refrigerators, door locks, elevators, etc. with the bus and the subway system. So most of the vocabulary itself in this article is actually not very difficult, but there are a couple of expressions that we use a lot in English. So yeah, thank you very much for your attention and your patience as I explain them. Alright, so shall we move on to the next paragraph? Okay, so, here's a picture of the miracle of the subway system in Seoul. You can just use your little car to get around. This was really, really fascinating to me when I first moved to Korea 7 years ago, because we did not have anything like this in the United States back when I lived there. I'd never even been on a bus or a subway, and everything was just so new and amazing for me. So yeah, don't take this sort of thing for granted, because it really adds a lot of quality to your life. Alright, second paragraph. Though deceptively simple in design, the bicycle is a marvel of 19th century engineering. For 2 centuries, the basic structure of the two-wheeled vehicle has remained essentially unchanged, even as its ridership has spread around the world. Additionally, despite the fact that it was invented long before the automobile was even conceptualized, the bicycle remains unrivaled even by car, public transportation, and electric vehicles in terms of its capability to convert energy from our bodies into kinetic energy, which propels us forward. Oh, this is quite a long sentence. Thank you very much for your patience. Alright, so first expression. Although the bicycle is deceptively simple. So when we say that something is deceptively simple, that means that it looks on the outside to be simple, but actually when you look a little bit closer, it isn't. So you can use this expression, deceptively simple, to refer to a lot of things, such as even maybe a poem or a book. Although the poem is deceptively simple, it actually has a deeper meaning. So yeah, usually you use this expression to kind of compare and contrast what something looks like versus what it actually is. And you don't have to just use this word simple, although deceptively simple is a set phrase that is used quite often in English. Yeah, you can use this with a ton of different adjectives also. So the second expression that we're going to look at is that the bicycle is a marvel of 19th century engineering. And this phrase has a very similar meaning and nuance to a miracle of engineering. So a miracle and a marvel, they mean almost the same thing. A marvel is something that is really amazing. So marvel is originally actually a verb, and it basically means to look at something in awe, in shock at just how awesome or cool that thing is. So when we think about it, when we think about the deceptively simple, so it looks simple but it actually isn't, design of the bicycle, we kind of want to marvel at it, like, wow. This simple machine, or something that we think of as, just so simple and easy to understand in our technologically advanced world today, it's actually pretty amazing, and it kind of changed how a lot of people live their lives. So when we think about it, we can kind of marvel, like, whoa, this is really cool when we think about it. So that's why we can call a bicycle a marvel of 19th century engineering. And that's especially thinking about the kind of resources that were available to inventors and scientists back in that time. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The third expression we're going to look at is ridership. So ridership simply refers to the number of people who ride a certain thing. So you can talk about subway ridership or bus ridership. In this case, we're talking about bicycle ridership. So the number of people who ride bicycles. Pretty easy to understand, right? Fourth vocabulary word is to conceptualize. I believe in Korean it's 개념화하다. So when we say that the bicycle was invented long before the automobile was even conceptualized. So the bike existed before the concept, for the 개념 of a car run on gas or, any other kind of fuel. Before that thought even existed, the bicycle had already been invented. So here we're emphasizing that the bicycle bit has been around for a much longer time than the motor vehicle or the car. So even though it's been around longer, the bicycle remains unrivaled in terms of its efficiency of converting energy into kinetic energy, which can propel the bike forward. So unrivaled means that there's no real competition. The bike is way, way, way up at the top because it's very, very energy efficient. And we're going to look at that in the next paragraph, so make sure to pay attention. And so, as I just mentioned, the bicycle is unrivaled, or it's the best, and it's number one, and number two doesn't even come close when it comes to converting energy from our bodies into kinetic energy. So kinetic means that something is in motion. So we have potential energy, which means the object isn't moving, but what kind of energy could it be producing or converting? And the kinetic energy is the thing that propels or moves the car forward. And so here we can see some examples of 19th century bicycles, and they look actually pretty similar to the bicycles that we ride today. And actually, fun fact, bicycles were really, really important for the emancipation or the freedom of women, because before the bicycle was around, a lot of women didn't really have the option of moving freely wherever they wanted to go, because especially if their family did not own a horse or something like that, they had to just walk everywhere, and all that heavy clothing, it was pretty difficult to do. And also, women usually were not allowed to leave their house. It wasn't a great time, so for women especially, the bicycle was a really important invention. Alright, last paragraph. In fact, over 90% of calories burned while riding a bicycle contribute directly towards propelling the operator and the machine itself forward. One compares this to the measly 25% of chemical energy stored in fossil fuels that actually goes towards moving a car. One wonders why consumers have largely abandoned the bicycle in favor of the more expensive, less efficient motor vehicle in recent decades. Whew, this is another mouthful, so yeah, thank you guys for holding on. So the first word here that we're going to look at is the operator. So in this case, the operator refers to the person who is driving the bicycle. So you can also refer to an operator in terms of someone who is operating a motor vehicle, although in that case, usually we probably call the person a driver. So you can operate all kinds of machines. It can be a crane, it can be a forklift, it can be, a disco pang. All of those people who are controlling the machines, those would be called operators. So what makes things like motor vehicles or cars and bicycles unique is that the operator is actually inside the machine itself and moving with the machine together. So when the car or the bicycle converts energy, it has to not just move itself forward, but also the operator or the person who's riding inside. And so, as we just mentioned, over 90% of the energy that you use when you ride a bicycle goes directly towards moving you and the bicycle forward. So this is very, very energy efficient. And of course, it does not require the burning of any fossil fuels, so it's also extremely good for the environment, which is always good, especially in, the days of global warming that we're living in. However, cars only are able to convert a measly 25% towards actually moving. So this word measly, it's there to emphasize the small amount of energy, just 25%, that actually propels or moves the vehicle forward. So you can use this expression in pretty much anything that involves a small numerical amount. So for instance, I can say, I worked all day babysitting for the Smith family and they only gave me a measly $5. So when you compare the amount of work that I did, so I worked for this family all day, so perhaps for 8 to 10 hours, and then they only gave me a measly $5. That's not even $1 per hour. That's nothing. That's pathetic when you compare it to the actual amount of work that went into it. So here we're emphasizing that when a car car uses energy, only 25%, only a small tiny bit, just a measly 25% actually moves the vehicle forward. So this is also a very, very good expression to know, and it's going to make your English sound really, really fluent and natural. Okay, last expression. So one wonders why consumers have largely abandoned the bicycle in favor of a motor vehicle. So this expression is a little bit, it's complicated by the fact that this clause, the more expensive, less efficient motor vehicle, is kind of long, but really we can just look at it as why consumers have abandoned the bicycle in favor of the car. Okay? So this is also a very, very commonly used set phrase, and usually it's used when we're talking about when we stop using one thing. It can be technology, it can be cosmetics, it can be, lots of things, perhaps even a language, and when we start using another thing. So I remember when I first arrived in Korea about 7 or 8 years ago, everybody was learning Japanese. So people would usually go to English hagwon, and then they would also go to Japanese hagwon. But I've noticed that in these times, more and more people are actually studying Chinese instead. So in this case, you could say that Korean consumers have abandoned Japanese language study in favor of Chinese language study. Or you can also say that, so right now, rap music and hip hop is really popular, but about 20 or 30 years ago, it was actually, rock music that was super popular. And I know now, I guess like you young kids, you don't really listen to that stuff anymore. And that's because teenagers have largely abandoned rock music in favor of rap music and hip hop. Okay? Pretty easy to understand, I think. So here we can just see, the different fuel efficiencies or energy efficiency of the car versus the bicycle. Very cool. All right, well, we're already at the end of this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this little lesson about how bicycles work. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure to let us know in the comment section below. And I hope to see you guys all again next week. All right, everybody have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!